2023 will be remembered for many memorable events in world football. Manchester City won a historic first Champions League title, as well as a first treble in its history, while Napoli was crowned champion of Italy for the first time in 33 years when Diego Maradona was part of the team. Apart from that, great players of the past have tragically passed away, such as English and Spanish legends Sir Bobby Charlton and Luis Suarez. However, on top of all events will remain the exodus of some of the greatest players of our time from Europe to Saudi Arabia. This phenomenon has of course not passed the Italian Serie A, with 8 players from the Calcio heading to Saudi Arabia. But what exactly are the reasons for this? Why is this happening right now? Are some players already regretting their decision? You will find the answers to this and many more interesting questions by the end of this video. Well, everyone is aware that the simple answer for so many transfers to Saudi Arabia is money. However, probably there is a credible explanation for players aged 33 to 34 to continue playing in the Middle East. They are past their peak and are ready to spend the last 2 to 3 years of their career getting a lot of money in a rich and warm country like Saudi Arabia. But to be honest, this phenomenon certainly doesn't justify the decisions of young and promising players or those who are in their prime, such as Roger Ibanez and Sergej Milinkovic-Savic, for example, aged 24 and 28 years old respectively. There are several other factors influencing players to make this move, but before we move on, this is a reminder for you to like this video, comment on which player who moved from Italy to Saudi Arabia you missed watching in Serie A, and please consider subscribing to our channel for more similar content. Enjoy! Another factor is the rapid development of football in the region, and this, of course, is also facilitated by money. There is a famous saying, "What cannot be achieved with money can be achieved with a lot of money." And this fully applies to the development of football in Saudi Arabia. As is well known, this country has never been famous for its football players or teams, but it still has the ambition to become one of the biggest football powerhouse countries in the world. One of the big steps toward fulfilling that goal is hosting the 2034 World Cup. Now, let's talk a bit about Serie A's contribution to this global phenomenon that has captivated football since late 2022 when Cristiano Ronaldo switched to Al Nassr. In the summer transfer window, 8 players from the Italian league joined teams from Saudi Arabia, the most prominent of which were Marie Demiral from Atalanta to Al Ahly, Marcelo Brozovic from Inter to Al Nassr, Cyprian Tanarashano from Milan to Abba Club, and the already mentioned Milinkovic-Savic from Lazio to Al Hilal, and Ibanez from Roma to Al Ahly. If we take the case of Brozovic, for example, who is certainly the most famous of all, we are talking about a player who was in the absolute prime of his career, playing a Champions League final with Inter and a World Cup semifinal with Croatia last season. And let's not forget the fact that he was 30 years old when he moved from Al Nassr, meaning that he would have at least another 3 or 4 years in top-level football in Europe. He even had an offer from Barcelona, a club that was looking for a top midfielder to replace Sergio Busquets. However, instead of Brozovic joining Xavi's ambitious project, he opted for the big money in Saudi Arabia. Speaking of each of these players' impact on Saudi Arabian football, it is surely a big one, as each of the big names already mentioned has experience in big games and can contribute a lot to their club, both result-wise and as role models to younger players who want to learn from exactly this type of stars who were born champions and know perfectly how to handle any situation the right way. Milinkovic-Savic, for example, is easily one of the best midfielders in the Saudi Arabian Pro League already. Looking at his stats since the beginning of the season, he has scored 2 and assisted 3 goals in 10 games for Al Hilal, has created 17 chances, and ranks 11th of all players in the league when it comes to ratings, having 7.78 according to several sports statistic websites. As we've already discussed, the Saudi Pro League wasn't familiar to many football fans until recently, but everything in the country is done with the goal that sports develops enough so that Saudi Arabia can become competitive with many sports nations. That's why, football-wise, the country has not had any great success at World Cups, having qualified only 6 times so far in 1994, 1998, 2002, 2006, 2018, and 2022. However, at the last World Cup in Qatar, Saudi Arabia made the surprise of the tournament by beating eventual champions Argentina in their first match. Looking at Saudi Pro League structure, it is very similar to one of many European leagues. The first team in the table is crowned champion, the first and second qualifies for the Asian Champion League, and the third to the Asian Cup, while the last three teams take the relegation to the second division. Milinkovic-Savic's Al Hilal has the most titles in the history of the Saudi Pro League, 18. The current champion, however, is Al Ittihad, who finished 5 points ahead of Al Nassr in the 2022-23 season. Apart from that, one of the latest news related to Saudi football is that from the next season onwards, at least one team from the local league will be part of the European Champions League, a revolutionary idea that will further raise the overall standard of football in the country. In order for this entire global project to be executed, the Saudi clubs realized that it was not enough to be approaching only superstars who were nearing the twilight of their career. Young talents with enormous potential must also be monitored, and exactly that would have driven the development of local football in the right direction. Media and journalists around the world, including Fabrizio Romano, broke the news over the summer that Celta's young talent Gabri Veiga opted to move to Al Ahly instead of Serie A champions Napoli, which caused a big scandal in the world of football. This is further proof that from here on, Saudi football will only improve for the better. A huge backing for this comes from the public investment group PIF, which since June this year owns 100% of the four biggest clubs in the country: Al Nassr, Al Hilal, Al Ahly, and Al Ittihad. But now let's head to another topic that is also interesting enough to discuss. Is it possible for the Saudi League to overtake the Italian Serie A? Well, even though the Saudi Pro League is developing very fast and in 5 years could be one of the biggest leagues in the world, it is still not on the level of any of the big ones in Europe. Yes, there are a few stars in each of the teams mentioned, but that still doesn't put the overall state of the league among the greatest in the world. That's because only 4 to 5 teams seriously stand out from the others. And for a nation and its leagues to be among the biggest and most successful in the world, it has to be competitive to produce young homegrown talent and to perform at the highest level in international tournaments, both club and national. And on these listed factors, Italy has a far bigger reputation than Saudi Arabia. Yes, according to many fans, Saudi Arabia's sudden intervention in world football can only bring sadness to romantic and classic fans of the game, not forgetting the thousands of negative reactions from fans at Inter, Lazio, Roma, and others who have had to accept the fact that their favorite players will have to turn their backs on them and head in another direction. And it's not even just fans of Italian teams. Real Madrid, for example, to this day can't quite fill a void left by Karim Benzema, while Liverpool, for example, is still struggling to find a proper solution to replace Fabinho in the center of the field. As for their decision, it is very possible that many of them already regret their choice since they saw that at this stage there is no growth for them in Saudi Arabia. Yes, they can have an impact on the development of football in the country in the long term, but until the next 2 to 3 years, no one will probably still take the Saudi League seriously. But despite all that, maybe it's time to face the bitter truth that the future of football lies in money, and no one and nothing can stop it. And that brings us to the end of today's video. Give us a thumbs up if you liked it and subscribe to our channel for more entertaining content regarding our favorite Serie A.